Say hi to Jim.
I'm going to ask everybody to please rise. We're going to pledge allegiance to the flag to start the meeting. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, tonight, this will be debate style. We have Tony and Dick here to present as the moderators. We are happy to see all four candidates. Steve Roberts, Gary Dunkley, both running for seat 2. Michelle Damone, incumbent for seat 4. And Betty Argue running for seat 4. Gary's also the incumbent for seat 2 right now. So I'm going to let Tony and Dick take it over, and they're going to run the thing, and it will be recorded, and it will be up on the website. Hopefully later tonight, if not tomorrow.
Thank you very much. I'm Tony Francetta, President Emeritus of the Florida Alliance for Retired Americans. We have about 217,000 members in the state of Florida, advocate for seniors and so forth. We've done a number of forums in Royal Palm Beach and Wellington at the request of the area candidates or the people that lived in those areas. We have no axe to grind in this one. We're just going to make sure it's run fair, make sure that each candidate is treated with the respect they deserve. Back in the early days, I spent 2 terms as a board member here, so I know what it's like. And each of the board members or aspiring board members have my respect for stepping up to be candidates. Richard Hadwick will be our moderator. He is a retired economics professor from the University of Illinois. And he has been the moderator that we have used in the past. I will be the parliamentarian to make sure if there's a dispute, I will rule on it as the parliamentarian. So if there is no questions about procedure at this point, then I would ask that the moderator take over and explain the time limits and the questions.
Thank you, Tony, and thanks all of you for showing up. The format is as follows. Each of the candidates will have 3 minutes for an opening statement. Folks, one of the questions that was handed in, sent to us, is so close to what you would use as an opening statement that I think I'll let you start with that question. That'll be 3 minutes for each of you. We'll just go left to right, and we'll end up going the other direction. Then we'll have a series of questions. We have had a number of them emailed in on our secure system. It is secure, right, Tony? Yes. And would you like to hand out the cards?
I will, as the meeting goes along, what we'll do, we'll take the submitted questions that were submitted electronically, and then we'll supplement those with cards I'm going to give the people in the audience that want to write a question down, and I'll turn it in, and that will be asked of the candidates.
And we'll start using those midway through the session. We'll begin first half hour with the questions that were emailed in. We will end with 3 minutes. In between, each of you candidates will have 2 minutes to respond to whatever question I read to you. So I see, Tim, you have the 3 minutes up. Okay, got the 3 minutes up there? Yes. Let's get going. Here is the question for each of the 4 of you, and you have 3 minutes. The question is, why should residents cast their vote for you? What skills, capabilities, etc. make you a better choice to sit on the board than your opponent? Steve, we'll start with you.
Right. Well, as far as the question goes, just why? I've got 20 years of finance. I'm not a politician. Do property management, do real estate. I get along with people. I do believe you have to work with everyone for something to get accomplished, and I don't believe with the tasks that we have coming forward that having someone arguing with the powers that be or people that are heading up these projects is going to be beneficial to the community. I don't have long-term alliances with any of the groups here. I don't have any dogs in the race except for I like to actually help out with my neighbors. I love where I live, and I just want to do what I can to actually be a better part of the community. That's really all I have. There's not much else I can say towards it. I don't really need 3 minutes for it.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Gary, the question is, why should residents cast their vote for you? 3 minutes.
That's a good question. I came out here 15 years ago. I built my home. Brought my kids and my horses. Tried to get away from privatization. I love the neighborhood geographically. We're in a strategic part of town where we can get to Orlando, Miami. We're like in the middle of the state. I read the sector plan before I came out here, thinking that we would have space. And basically, when I moved out here, everything kind of changed. My background is that I've been a business person for 30 years, owned my own companies. I find that Indian Trail has a lot of obstacles that we can overcome, but we have to change our focus on the direction we're going to deal with incoming challenges. My key point is drainage. We have been neglecting our infrastructure. Our engineer pointed out that we will take approximately $1 million a year to get back into swing. We have a lot of waste in terms of finances. The last job I had, I was over Biscayne, Hollywood, and Flagler Kennel Clubs, over 3,000 employees. We have a lot of potential. We just have to shape up the way that we spend our money. We don't have a high budget, so therefore we have to utilize what we have to get what we want. In terms of management, I brought this up because, number one, we have roads, we have equipment, and we have an impending we have developments at our doorstep, which will cost us more money in terms of maintenance of our roads. We have roads that are not made to take traffic. We have to deal with that. We have a lot of challenges, but I'm pretty sure we will overcome them. That's my way. I have no horse in the race, except for I'm a concerned resident. That's it. Oh, I'm also owner. I also finance my own campaign.
Thank you, Gary. Tony reminded me to remind all 4 of you to speak a little louder so the audience can hear you, or turn down your mic. There we go.
The mics aren't on tonight. Heidi couldn't get them on.
Well,
Just so you know.
just so you know, raise your voice. Okay, Michelle, why should residents cast their vote for you? 3 minutes.
First, I'd like to thank you and Tony for moderating the meeting. I really appreciate it. I thank all of you for attending this evening. My name is Michelle DeMone, and I am a 20-year resident of the acreage. I moved out here when my children were young. I opened up the newspaper, which was then The Observer, which most of you in this room probably don't remember. And I saw the Moms Club and a few children cleaning the only park we had in the acreage, which was Holford Park. And the children were rewarded by cleaning the park with some lollipops. And I thought to myself, this is a community that I want to get involved with. And so I got involved by working with all the organizations in the area before I ever went out to seek the seat. In fact, I didn't seek it. The leadership at that time came and asked me to run. I love this community. It was a growing community. We had all the neighborhood parks that we were developing. And I was humbled that they came to me and asked me to participate in that. There's so much historical assets to this community that I had an input or say or a part of it, even simply as an advocate before I was an elected official. And when I was elected by proxy back in 1999, one of the first projects that I got to turn from something that should have been bad eggs to turn into a jewel, and that was Coconut Park. And I'm a firm believer that it's easy to stand on the sidelines and say no, 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 or you dislike. It's more difficult to actually come up with a solution. And most of the times, all I ever hear from other elected officials or community advocates is, I don't like this, I don't want that, or no, 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 no. Well, what's the problem solving? What's your solution? What's the solution to the problem? How are you going to correct it? How are you going to turn something around and change something? And I firmly believe that the experience that I've garnered over the years and the historical knowledge that I have is valuable to this community. And the relationships that I have built, whether it be retired former elected officials or retired former heads of major departments or current leaders, allows me to problem solve and help come up with solutions when problems occur here at the district. I'm a 20-year resident. I love this community. This is where I raised my children. They went to Acres Pines, Western Pines, and then my kids both graduated from Seminole Ridge High School. This is where I want to stay. I love having a big backyard. I love the open space. And I love this district. I've seen it grow, and it has potential to continue to grow as long as creative minds are the ones that are elected to sit on this board. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Betty, why should residents cast their vote for you?
Hi, my name's Betty Argue. Residents should cast their vote for me because I have a proven, demonstrated leadership in this community in terms of wanting to preserve and protect what we have here, the uniqueness of our community. I became involved in the community. We moved here in 2011. And in 2011, my son, just a short couple of months after we moved here, had a serious accident. And so my focus was on him, my oldest son. He was 16 at the time. Then Tropical Storm Isaac happened. And around that time, I started paying attention to the local Facebook groups and what was going on in the discussions. And I saw some really poor leadership and very poor behavior. And then Minto came along, and I started paying attention to what was going on in that. I have a background in law and in real estate, 10 years in law, working as a paralegal, 8 years as a successful real estate agent, successful being that I did it full-time. I didn't need to supplement my income doing anything else. I have three boys, two more boys that are 6 and 8. They have been involved in the Acreage Athletic League. They are in Scouts. I am the PAC committee chair. I'm also the president of Loxahatchee Groves PTO. I'm very involved in our community and wanting to keep what we have without it being destroyed by everything that's coming. I'm going to leave it at that for now.
Thank you. Next question, and we're going to start with Betty, is what is your stance on the incorporation of the acreage Loxahatchee area, and how might it affect the equestrian, agricultural, farming, rural nature of our area and way of life? And what is your opinion regarding whether the improvement district should remain or be dissolved, and why? Okay.
Good question.
Okay.
Well, let's see.
2 minutes.
Let's start with the comprehensive plan, currently under the unincorporated Palm Beach County, was to protect our area. And essentially, what has happened is that the county has amended that comprehensive plan to suit development. As a result of that, we're going to see some changes that potentially will be outside the control of our community. From that perspective, I think that incorporation could protect our community It could potentially build in the protections that people want to see with respect to the equestrian, agricultural, livestock, you name it. However, on the flip side, there are a number of problems with incorporation of our area. One is that we would be creating another level of government should ITID continue to exist. And one of the things that I've heard most from people is that they are opposed to another layer of government, and they are opposed to additional taxes. And well, incorporating will potentially increase our taxes. Keeping ITID and having an incorporated municipality will guarantee increased taxes. So I would prefer to see ITID either dissolved or as a dependent district of the municipality.
Thank you, Betty. Michelle, same question. Would you like me to read it again?
No, I understood it the first time.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I firmly believe in the people's right to seek incorporation. We tried to do this back in 2002 when development was approaching like it is now. It failed because some people used fear tactics, and unfortunately we were a little behind the 8 ball. So here it comes again, 2016 after the recession. Redevelopments are approaching us, and now we're seeking incorporation to control our destiny. And I fully support the people seeking incorporation, and I support the people getting the feasibility study. Until I see the feasibility study to see that if it's financially fruitful for this community is when I'll decide whether I support incorporation moving forward. I think we missed out an opportunity in 2002. I think we're slightly behind now. I think anyone who feels that incorporation would diminish the characteristics of the community that we have now are wrong. Loxahatchee Groves is a perfect example of that. They are a community of 3,200 people who are by far more rural in character than we are. They have larger tracts of land, and they have a lot more landscapers than we do, and they did it to protect their lifestyle. And they have more control of their area than we do currently now. The way that it currently is right now, Indian Trail Improvement District could not be a dependent district. You would have to solve issues with units 16, 17, 18 in the village of Royal Palm Beach, which is Madison Green and Cypress Trails. Even if you could resolve those issues and allow Indian Trail to become a dependent district, which I think is the right structure if we incorporated, I don't think dissolving is the correct solution. You still need to maintain roads and water control. And the other issue, and you can turn parks over to the new municipality. It's interesting to hear my opponent say that she doesn't support an extra layer of government, because if you support the Inspector General, that is an extra layer of government that we already pay for. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Gary, we're going to start with you on this one. You want me to read it again? What is your stance on the incorporation of the acreage of Loxahatchee, and how it might affect the equestrian, agricultural, farming, rural nature of our area and way of life? And what is your opinion regarding whether the improvement district should remain or be dissolved, and why? 2 minutes.
All right. Number one, incorporation is really, as a board member, it's not up to me. It's up to the people. If this is what they want to do, I agree with it. I will not make a decision until I see a feasibility study. One of the reasons I moved here with my kids and my animals, and I bought a rather large lot of land, which I haven't been successful on planting. I might have planted about 50 trees, only 20 trees have survived. This is why I came up with the gardening class that was offered to residents free of charge, so we could utilize what we have in terms of space and get into planting, farming. In terms of the board, we have our hands full on focusing on, number one, trying to streamline our administration, trying to streamline our budget. We have equipment that is going to need to be utilized more because of the more use of roads by incoming development. Our water, our drainage, we need to focus on our inverted siphon so we can draw down when impending hurricane is coming, like we were just, God blessed us where we missed Matthew. We had everything in play where we would be able to draw down. We're the highest part of West Palm Beach, and there is no reason why it should be another Isaac. Do I think there should be a second layer of government? No, I don't. But Wellington has 2 layers, and like I said, my mind would be determined on a feasibility study.
Thank you, Gary. Steve, your turn. Would you like it read again or
No, I'm good, I understand.
Go for it, 2 minutes.
I wasn't here in 2002. I wasn't here when the original talks of incorporation went through. It was something that came up recently. I actually, in the very beginning, when the plan was starting, I had actually met with Brett Taylor. He's been heading it up, got some information. Through the information, finding out, we can all agree that the feasibility study is something that has to be done. There's no point one way or another to make a decision because if it's not a benefit to the community and it's going to cost us drastically, it just doesn't make sense. And I, personally, I just wouldn't be able to, say, hey, let's go ahead and get incorporated, knowing it's going to cost me, X amount in tax dollars every single year above and beyond what we're already paying. Now, on the other hand, as far as living out here, I moved out here from the Gardens. One of the reasons I moved out here, and as bad as it sounds, is I wanted to be able to leave people when I got home. I deal with people all day long. I manage sales teams. I manage lawyers. I've dealt with everybody all day. And the last thing I wanted to do when I got home was deal with another 50 people sitting in my parking lot, riding around my condo, driving me crazy and throwing things around the car. I loved coming out here to come home and have the space. I like that my neighbors can do what they like. I like going around the corner and seeing horses. I actually enjoyed seeing people on the 4-wheelers going past the house, and then I found out you can't have 4-wheelers golf carts on the street legally, unless you're in the groves. So, incorporation, some of the positives, yes, we can actually set some of those guidelines. We can throw them in the charter. We can actually make decisions that we want to do. As far as the second layer of government, one layer is not always good enough. As we can always find, when people that are on the board with one layer of government are arguing with each other, telling people to shut the hell up, well, quite honestly, it isn't going to help. Sometimes we need that second layer, as long as it isn't going to cost us at the end of the day. And there's a way to be able to do it in the feasibility study. I'm sure it's going to be able to show us exactly where we can and where we can't go with it. So if it's something that makes sense, I'm absolutely for it. I want to preserve what we have out here and enjoy what I have.
Thank you, Steve.
No problem.
For the next question, the order will be Gary, Steve, then Michelle, and Betty. The question is, with the approval of additional homes in the acreage and the impact this will have on the county utilities and its consumptive use permit with the South Florida Waste Management for aquifer withdrawal, has the improvement district secured enough capacity to supply the existing and future residents within the acreage and the improvement district's water supply agreement with the county? Gary?
There's misinformation in that question.
Okay.
That question's a misinformed question. It's not accurate to us.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and follow the routine. When we get to you, Michelle, you can correct. Gary?
Can I call it out? How do you answer a question that's asked incorrectly?
Well, let's take
Go back and read that.
Okay. With the approval of additional homes in the acreage and the impact this will have on the county utilities and its consumptive use permit with South Florida Waste Management.
Water Management District. That's where the incorrect came in.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, it was just the initials and
I know, but keep going.
Okay. For aquifer withdrawal, is there such an agreement?
We don't get involved in that, but I can answer that from there. Go
So the
ahead.
improvement district, has the improvement district secured enough capacity to supply the existing and future residents within the acreage and the improvement district's water supply agreement with the county?
Still a little misinformed, but we can go from there.
Okay.
The fact that she says waste management, all that stuff was, the question was way out there.
Okay, well, maybe we should,
Perhaps we should move on.
Tony,
Go ahead in the order that you instructed, and we're not going to get into a debate with the moderator.
Okay.
I apologize, didn't mean for it. It's just that it was an
Okay.
accurate question.
Gary, you've got a little extra time to think about it. Are you ready? Okay. 2 minutes.
Question is hard, but number one, I find there is a need. We need water storage. This is one of the reasons that I went to Tallahassee to fight for storage. We also have an agreement with GL Homes for 640 acres that we can develop into more water storage. To me, the pipes, the water, that's a hard question. I'm sorry. That's.
Okay. Thank you, Gary. Steve, would you like to try this one?
I will be the first one to admit I am not an engineer. I have not studied all of those. I'm not on board currently to know what exactly is going on with them. So I have no problem looking at it another time when I know what's going on with it. But no, that's not something I would get involved with.
Okay.
We have 5 board members that, when they're on the board, we ask the engineers, I'm sure they can provide
Clock.
the correct
The
information.
clock should be running.
Sorry.
That's okay, I'll be done within like 12 seconds. No, we'll actually, we have 5 board members, and you've got staff and there's engineers, and when those topics come up, that's where we get to rely on professionals to be able to go ahead and direct us and let us ask our questions to them, and if that's the case, find out from them. I personally do not know, that's not right.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that fell within the 2 minutes. Okay, Michelle, now you have 2 official minutes.
I wasn't trying to speak before, I was trying to correct your question because it's confusing. Indian Trail Improvement District has a water utility agreement with Palm Beach County Water Utility Department, which is for the existing units of development within the acreage. And it has absolutely nothing to do with how Palm Beach County Water Utility Department stores their water or aquifer, etc. We still have a moral and ethical obligation within our community to make sure that we don't do anything to contaminate the natural water flow in our area. That's why we take care and we make sure that we know that the majority of our community is on wells, so we don't interfere with it. How Palm Beach County Water Utility Department determines how they store water and where they go for their water source has absolutely nothing to do with any Indian Trail Improvement District Board of Supervisor. The only way I would think that this district would get involved or advocate, and that's where it would be, is if Palm Beach County Water Utility Departments continue to fail in their water quality, which has nothing to do with the storage, but by having the natural storage in our area and the ability to do that, we do naturally cleanse and recharge the aqua field. So the utility agreement that ITID has with Palm Beach County Water Utility has nothing to do with the Minto development, has nothing to do with the GL development, and has nothing to do with Avenir development. So that is why that question is absolutely confusing and has nothing to do with waste management.
Thank you, Michelle. Betty, 2 minutes.
Well, I think the reason that question was probably asked is from the perspective of if we were not on wells, if we were to go on public water, is there enough in the public utilities that would service all of the area, including the new developments? And that question, I can't answer that. However, I can say that the reason why Indian Trail does not have the consumptive use permit, and it's with Palm Beach County Water Utilities, is because it was the Indian Trail Board under Michelle Damone's leadership that sold the utility rights of Indian Trail to the county. And as a result, we have nothing to show for it. And Royal Palm Beach now gets a percentage, I think it's 10% forevermore for all water that is sold in the acreage, all new water lines. So back to answer what that person was probably trying to get at, I think it probably had to do with, is there enough water to put everybody on public county water? And that I cannot answer. I think that answer would come from South Florida Water Management District.
Good, thank you. Remind all 4 of you that we will end with each of you having a final 3 minutes to talk about, address anything that comes up. So if something comes up as we're going along that you'd like to respond to, you can do it at that time. Now we're turning to an audience question. Government in general is inefficient. Where would you concentrate your efforts to make the spending more efficient in Indian Trail? Let's see, we haven't started with, yes, we've started with everybody here.
Not me.
You have not, okay, Michelle, let's start with you. Michelle,
So you want
Betty?
the most, just repeat that question, the last
Question
one.
was, read it again. Government in general is inefficient. Where would you concentrate your efforts to make the spending more efficient in Indian Trails?
Well, that's a question with assumption.
Pretty good one, too.
But it's an assumption. In 2006, when we were able to do a board conversion, the previous board had inflated the district by $3 to $4 million. We stripped it back down to 10.5. We solved the lawsuit that we had with the Palm Beach County Water Utility Department that was costing this district $1.3 million in frivolous lawsuits. So under my leadership, we stopped that bleed of money right there, because you got to remember, if you sue Palm Beach County and you're an ITID tax, you're double suing yourself, because you pay money to Palm Beach County and you pay money to Indian Trail. So the attorney expense on this and the attorney expense on that end is both coming out of your pocket. So we solved that problem. And then we got a $1.4 million to improve 140th Road. And we got another $3+ million that is in our capital improvement fund that have been generating interest over the last 10 years and will help build the expansion of Community Park. So I disagree that we didn't get anything for it. Then once we had the new leadership in 2006, we turned around and we fixed the books, and we got the correct auditor in here, and we actually, under my leadership, had 5 years of clear, clean audit report, something that's important to me, and it continues to be important to me. Under my leadership, we reduced assessments 6 years in a row. So I'm very proud of my efficiency here at the district. Thank you.
Okay. Betty?
Well, I'm not sure what 6 years Michelle's talking about, because I know for the past 5 years my taxes have gone up. So you can try and do an average and say that by taking funds from a reserve fund and then the next year increasing somebody's taxes by 26% is reducing taxes, but I don't buy it. There have been a lot of things that I've sat through the budget sessions, and in particular this year there were things that were kicked down the road that were important that we start collecting from our community, because there are many things coming down the pipeline that are going to be very expensive. And while it looks good during an election year to keep your taxes low, it is not good for our residents next year and the year after and the year after that. So I think we're in for a rude awakening. With respect to the money that was obtained, clearly Mr. Moe doesn't understand the fact that $3 million 5 years ago is not comparable to having those funds for utilities forevermore, such as Royal Palm Beach even getting 10%. And the $3 million for the community park expansion has been spent. We're already at $7 million and the park is not done. And that's only for this next phase, phase 2, $3.2 million to be spent, and we will basically have depleted all of the funds there unless we come up with some more bond money. So while it's wonderful to say that under your leadership we have gotten all these things, the money has been spent irresponsibly as far as I'm concerned, and it certainly has not benefited our residents in the long run.
Fred?
That's Gary.
Gary. Fred. Gary? Yeah. Read the question again. It's pretty simple.
There has been in my estimation, there has been a lot of waste in this community, from this district. Number one, I do not understand why park budgets and administration budget is almost equal. Number two, the wasting, as Betty pointed out, of the monies on the community park. I agree to do the community park at this point. It's because we have some sources of funding, that will not be as much burden to the residents. Number two, that we have an avenue of, we have a 30-year lease. We have an avenue of making the park ours instead of putting all that money into something we don't own. We also have the equipment burden coming up. We have some graders that need replacing that we're on a lease with some of them now. We don't maintain the equipment that we have, causing us at the end of 4 or 5 years have to replace. That doesn't make sense. There's a lot of common sense things that we're not doing that I feel that we should do. People don't like change. People don't like to change things the way they're doing it. And as a board member, I find that we have to be more efficient and cut cost when it comes to administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Steve?
All right. My favorite thing, government efficiency. Seems like an oxymoron if you ask me. I actually, seen through in the meeting, and we were listening to one of the budget. I'm going to go with the graders just, for an example. When you speak about the graders, they're talking about 2 of them being on lease and a couple of them being owned, and they were talking about, one question was how many hours were being put on the ones that were being leased. Now, I just don't see the questions being asked right. I'm really big about when someone says something costs too much. I really like to know compared to what. I mean, it's a realistic question because anyone can throw their hands in the air and say, hey, that costs too much. But if we have no reason or no way to compare it to something, it makes no sense. And when talking about the grader and talking about these 2 leases and the amount of hours on it, the question that wasn't asked was how many hours were used on all of the graders owned and leased cumulatively, and what was the average, and does that fit within our lease? Now, I like leases. It cuts down your maintenance, it cuts down your costs, you get new equipment as you need it, and as long as you stay within the hours of usage, it actually saves money. But if you don't have the information, you don't ask the right questions, you're stuck with high expense, and therefore that's more waste. Now, personally, we have expansion parks, we have different things coming up, and everything costs money. And I know this is the only town that I've seen, that I've lived in, and I've lived in quite a few states, that you can go to any park on any given weekend, and there are tons of families out there. And it's one of the things that makes it very unique about the acreage. We've got the forest parks, we've got the fields, we've got AAL, we've got the AHA, all these groups that are out there using this, and you don't have that anywhere else. But you know what? That's going to cost money. And sometimes it breaks down to a couple dollars, but it's up to the people to decide whether that couple dollars, per household is worth it. We grew. Things are going to go up. We still have to be respectful of the cost and ask compared to what. If we don't ask that, we're never going to know. And that's where I feel about cutting efficiency.
Okay. Back to the questions that were mailed in through our secure server. And we'll start with you, Betty. Should Indian Trail assume all activity provider responsibilities, or should such responsibilities be outsourced?
Well, I guess right now we have the Acreage Athletic League, and I think they do a great job providing athletic programs for our children and our community. There's always room for expansion, and I think if someone else wanted to come in and run a program that the Acreage Athletic League is not, then I think that that's something that Indian Trail could consider. Indian Trail does, through our tax dollars and our park fund, help to supplement some of the programs by, paying for, say, the electricity for lights at Community Park. With respect to the Acreage Horsemen's Association, again, with a valid, bona fide nonprofit organization, I think that Indian Trail should have provider agreements. And I think that if there's any other organization, we have the Acreage Landowners Association, if there's any other organization that would like to provide a service to our community that's a valid nonprofit, then I think Indian Trail should partner with them. I don't think Indian Trail should be in the business of providing those services for the community. I think it's better to have the partnerships with other organizations.
Thank you, Betty. Michelle?
We actually analyzed this years ago when we expanded Community Park. We looked at whether a nature trail improvement district should add recreation as one of its responsibilities as an improvement district. We analyzed it and the cost was much higher than we anticipated without utilizing volunteer organizations like the Acreage Athletic League, like AYSO, like the Acreage Horsemen's Association. We realized that using volunteers within the community reduces that budget, which, by the way, the parks budget is 9% of our overall ITID budget. But we wanted to invest in our communities because we don't have any other gathering places in the acreage that are large other than our parks. And that's where this community blossomed from. And so the heart of this community belongs to its volunteers. And sometimes, unfortunately, among volunteers, you don't always get the most accurate information, but that doesn't mean that they did it with ill intent. It means that they need assistance. And we have to remind ourselves that we need to treat those volunteers respectfully because they're the ones who are lugging the equipment to the field, getting up when the sun rises, going home when the sun sets, and they're out in 90-something degree weather, and they are volunteering to serve our children. And our community has proven to be successful with these programs because we have state championship football teams and flag football teams with our girls, and success at the high school, and those children that were once small kids on the field blossomed in high school and other areas that serve this community. So I don't think that ITID needs to get in the business of providing recreational activities that currently are provided by volunteer organizations, and I think Indian Trail Improvement District needs to respect and honor all of those organizations. And if they need assistance, we need to give them assistance and not belittle them.
Thank you, Michelle. We'll move to you next, Steve. Repeat the question, or you have?
No, I don't think I understand it. You know, we just heard something about government efficiency. You know, I honestly, I've never seen a government turn around and say, we're going to start doing all the recreational sports ourselves. You know, we have all these parks, and the volunteers, when you think about the amount of volunteers it takes, one of the things that people like about volunteering, one, it makes them feel good. Two, it brings them closer to all their neighbors. It's what's unique about what we have. So, you say, hey, should we actually, internalize it as part of ITID? Absolutely not. I think, these groups thrive on working together, creating their own bonds, working with the children, working with other people's children. And our responsibility is to maintain the parks, make sure provider agreements are actually going to be handled correctly, make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and in turn, give them a great environment to utilize. So, if you really want to be, efficient, let's not add another layer of sports to our little team here. Got a hard enough time just trying to keep the board members from fighting with each other. So, no, as far as I'm concerned, I absolutely think we should be utilizing every one of the groups that are out there, volunteers, especially volunteer groups and nonprofits, if that's what are available. If there's other groups that want to utilize the parks, there's other days that are also not being used that they could possibly do other events, and that could be a way to actually recapitalize some funds through permitting. But I would much rather, keep it in the hands of our community and keep it away from us.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. We now turn to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions that you folks.
Gary.
Oh, Gary.
Either one.
You didn't want to say anything. You can take it off my time. I'll give you 2 minutes.
It's best that we outsource it. We as a board have a responsibility to the community, that if there's any allegations or anything that is not up to par, it's our obligation to look into it. Our kids, we do have all these parks. Our kids and grandkids do need some type of activities to occupy themselves. But looking at the activities and looking at the organization and them following the guidelines that is set out for are 2 different scenarios. If one nonprofit can't do it, let's see if we can find another one. What it is basically, Acreage Athletic League is a prime example. They're very good. They're efficient. They add to the community. let's use them as a model to do all organizations. And that's what we as a board should do in terms of recreation and monitoring certain different nonprofit organizations.
Thank you, Gary. Now, as I said, we'll turn to your audience questions. We have 5 of them here that will stick in before we go back to the ones that were emailed in. The first of those is, and we'll start with you, Michelle. How do you plan to work with coming development? Would you close roads?
I will absolutely never close roads, period. Unless it was a health hazard or something that would be adversely affect our community and its public safety, health, and welfare. Right now, the acreage is difficult to navigate through with the canal system that we have, which was designed and built for orange groves. Our current fire rescue has a hard time, and that's why the majority of our firefighters that sit at Station 26 and 22 are people who are familiar with the area or reside in the area. We have some of the highest response times in all of Palm Beach County. The average is about 8 minutes. Ours in certain areas is up to 14 minutes, and that's unacceptable. So I personally have no desire to close any roads. We do not have enough roads leading in and out of the acreage in case there was ever a catastrophe or a disaster in this area. Had Hurricane Matthew turned one more wall to the west, this would have been a catastrophe area that American Red Cross, FEMA, and everybody else would need to get in here, and we would not have had efficient roads to evacuate. About 10 years ago, there was a fire on the north side of North Lake, so you would have closed down North Lake, and all you would have had is Seminole Pratt, and the existing reliever road wasn't there. You would have Royal Palm Beach Boulevard to get out. We need State Road 7 to connect to North Lake tomorrow, and we need more roads that allow our residents to get in and out safely, to get to their jobs and to get home safely. Our internal roads that are residential roads, we need to protect and keep them as rural as possible without affecting public safety, health, and welfare. And I'm a firm believer that saying no and sticking your head in the sand only gives you what you fear the most. By having civil conversations, respectful ones, with knowledge, historical value, and experience can actually bring amenities that we would benefit from, that would buffer our community to preserve what we have now.
Thank you, Michelle. Betty?
Well, Michelle Damone has a history of selling out our community to development. She says that she will not do anything that will impede the health, safety, and welfare of our community, yet she would turn several of our roads into major thoroughfares. When given the opportunity to stand up against that and to protect our roads, she did not do that. She voted against it. She voted against this board resolution against Minto, and she talks about fear tactics, but she used fear tactics 2 years ago with respect to litigation to protect our roads, Indian Trail roads. I don't see how adding 100,000 cars on 60th Street and Persimmon traveling through our residential roads is not a health and safety issue. And with respect to adding more traffic calming or speed bumps, it will become necessary, and you will have no choice but to do that, and you will increase the response time. And I find it interesting that Michelle has finally started talking about the 14 minutes, it's actually 14 minutes, 0.35 seconds for response. That information became public 3 years ago during Minto. And the time to have been opposing and trying to find a solution and making sure that our community was protected was 3 years ago when Minto's application was before the community, before the county. Including GL Homes. I didn't see Michelle Damone at any of the meetings. I certainly did not see her advocating for our community and making sure that we were going to be protected and that we were going to have adequate services out here for the existing residents that live here.
Thank you, Betty. And next we go to you, Gary. Yeah, good to see you. Your question again?
We are in a precarious situation. To me, the county has failed us by granting all these development permits to build without working on the infrastructure before they came in. We as a community have to face it. We have to come up with creative ways to deal with traffic. Closing roads, I'm not sure about that. I will take my advice from my road engineer. But at this point, we just have to balance out between safety and common sense. And closing roads, I don't see at this point. There was one scenario when our road engineer came up with certain cubicles where throughway traffic wouldn't interfere with neighbors. We will have to deal with more expense when it comes to maintaining our roads. When in closing roads, when 3 years ago, when they were talking about 60, I did initiate trying to fight. And I thought that was the time to fight, not afterwards. We have to become creative. We have to deal with the increasing traffic that's going to affect our community.
Thank you, Gary. Steve?
Well, what was that old saying? Say something about catch more bees with honey. You know, I kind of feel bad. I've been here 5 years, and you know, from what I hear about the talks, about everybody, you know, no to Minto, no to GL. Let's fight. Let's sue. Let's scream. Let's shut the roads down. And I keep wondering, since I bought my house within the last 5 years, am I supposed to leave? I mean, we're talking about additional traffic out here, and everyone's been building out. Houses are going up everywhere within the acreage. Now, when I grew up in Maryland, and in a spot in Maryland, they were putting up a town center called Newtown, or Owings Mills Newtown. I'm in a small Baltimore County little area, and connected to it is Hunt Valley, which is, if you know Pimlico and all the wordsing out there, it's all equestrian. So everyone's freaking out because we're putting in 795, which is a highway, which is going to be running parallel. Then they were putting up a whole new community right there adjacent to us. And going back there now, and I was there when it was being built, we would lose our minds if that road shut down. It seemed like we all thought about it in the beginning, but at the end of the day, it brought more revenue, more jobs. We still kept a small town. My wife laughs at me all the time. I say I'm from Baltimore. She says, no, you're from the smallest town in the country. And she laughs because we have one traffic light on Main Street. And it's still that way, even though adjacent, we have 795, we have Owings Mills Newtown, we are 15 minutes from Baltimore City, we have the lowest amount of crime, and it's still a county where I still know all the officers by first name. I'm not against it. You know, I don't think we should be closing roads. I think we should be able to work with them. We should be able to try and see what we do to preserve what we have them pay for any of the upgrades that are needed to maintain, you know, the flow of traffic, and allow us maybe some additional avenues to be able to let us in and out.
Thank you, Steve. We have a lot of unanswered questions here, but we are facing our 8 o'clock deadline. We're going to go a little bit over. We promised each of you 3 minutes to close. And since we started on the left to open up, let's start on the right with Betty. Betty, you, like the rest, will have 3 minutes to say anything you want. Sing anything you want to do.
Well, first I want to thank the Acreage or Landowners Association for hosting, and I'd like to thank you moderators for moderating, and I'd like to thank all of you for attending. There's a couple things that I would like to add that didn't get asked, that there were some comments made. One was with respect to the Inspector General. The Inspector General is not another layer of government. And the Inspector General is tasked with oversight, and the cost of the Inspector General is 1/4 of 1% of contracts that are signed. So what that means is that the recent park contract that was signed for $3.2 million would have cost Indian Trail, or cost the contractor, $8,000 in order to have oversight to make sure that there was not fraud, waste, abuse, to make sure that the contractors and the subcontractors, the employees of Indian Trail, and so on and so forth, were acting within the legal bounds. If we were to incorporate, automatically as a municipality, we would come under the Inspector General. And something else I'd like to point out is that any funds that we get as an Indian Trail Improvement District right now from the county is subject to the Inspector General. And I don't think we should fear oversight. I don't think we should fear transparency. I think it's very important for our community. And with respect to the audit that we're required to do under Indian Trail, I'm not going to go into a lot of the details on that and waste my time. However, it's very limited, and it doesn't look at the individual aspects of contracts and how it's being managed and making sure that there's not fraud, waste, and abuse. So I wanted to clarify that information. The other thing is with respect to closing roads. It's been misrepresented that I want to close roads. I don't want to close roads. I want to protect our roads. I want to protect our residents. That means not opening up 60th and not opening up Persimmon. Because what happens is the fact that now that Minto is incorporated as the city of Westlake, they can now develop to however many houses they want. Once we open up 60th, there's no control. There is no limit. Even the county can't control it. So I would think that not giving that permit to allow 100,000 cars going on 60th would be the best way to protect our residents and to protect our lifestyle. And the last thing I want to say is that I want to improve, as part of the parks budget, our equestrian community with trails, and that has been neglected under the current leadership.
Thank you, Betty. Michelle.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for coming here. Let's talk about that Inspector General. My opponent is taking her advice from former County Commissioner Jess Santa Maria, and she is receiving false information as it applies to a special district. We do not have the ability that municipalities have to put 1% on our contracts. It instead is a flat fee. So that fee could be about $200,000 to $300,000 per year to have an extra layer of government, known as the Inspector General, when we already have the Auditor General out of Tallahassee, because we are a state government agency, and we also have the Florida State Ethics Commission, and you can actually use the state attorney right here in Palm Beach County if there was something going on that you didn't feel was appropriate. So we already have that layer of government, and it shouldn't cost us extra money, especially if we want to be efficient. If you don't open 60th Street or Persimmon for the traffic that Minto is going to create, the only other option that Seminole Improvement District has, which is the special district that represents Minto, is 168th. They have a major easement there that could go straight down 168 to Southern Boulevard. So if you don't come up with solutions to traffic problems, they will only occur where you fear them to occur. Under my leadership, we took reserves from 6% to 25 to 30%. And that's above what the State Auditor General requires, because that's what I wanted for financial security here at the district. So when we have excess reserves, you can either credit them back to the property owner, or you can use them for an expense or amenity that the district requires. When Tropical Storm Isaac was here, our reserves were so healthy that we put out the $1.7 million to make the improvements and the corrections after the flood that occurred here, that FEMA reimbursed us $1.7 million. And we never sold our utility easements to Palm Beach County Water Utility. It's a provider's agreement, much like the AT&T has or Xfinity has for you to get cable and telephone in your home. So a lot of what my opponent says sounds good, but it's all misinformation and it's not factual, because she lacks the experience and the knowledge that I have to serve this district 4 more years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle. Gary?